All right, good morning. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Also, great to be here with you today. My apologies for last week. It's been a rough kind of 10-day stretch here, health wise, and started to feel a little bit better yesterday. Still have a few things hanging on. You can probably tell from my voice that my voice is back to about normal here, but definitely a relief. Compared to what has been. So anyway, thanks for putting up with me last week. But let's go out and get to it here today, and see what's going on. A lot of stuff last week. All right, and I didn't get a chance to comment on too much of it. I think I kind of understand some of the impressions I might have given, but I'll kind of go out and review a little bit of that here with you. But most importantly, this morning, I want to go through the challenge watch list with you. Just show, what stocks are close, what stocks, we're just not going to see a trigger on. Kind of, set up the challenge kind of going into the end of the year here. With the market in a very interesting spot, right? It's in one of those spots where it's at a new high. We had trade deal happen, right? Phase one, which was exactly what we talked about. It was probably going to be a very watered down version of any sort of trade deal, and just the easiest points put into that, and then just the rest of the stuff, to come. And it's one of those deals where both sides get to claim victory, both sides get to save face, and that's what we see here with the with that trade deal. Now, it's also a step in the right direction. It's progress, right? So it does add some of that positivity to the market, who, let's face it, from an earnings standpoint, already has that positivity, already has that strong environment for earnings. Now, what will 2020 look like? Well, if you listen to the analysts so far this month, buy 2020, you buy. It seems like every analyst is coming out and saying buy stocks in 2020. We saw Bank of America come out and say that here this morning, and that's a little nervy, right? A little nervy when you start seeing all the analysts on the same side. But anyway, let's go out and take a look. We have one position on the board, and that's GLD gold here, and gold's up 3 cents here this morning. Probably option value here $1.78. So, this is just something that really hasn't moved for us. We're down $18 on it. We entered the stock when it was at 138.76. Right now, it's at 139.20. So it's about 50 cents higher, 44 cents higher, right? And the option is flat. Right? And that's going to happen with when we don't have movement, and we get hit by that time decay, by that implied volatility element here with it. But still a good chart, still in a strong position. We do hit our auto exit red date here this afternoon. Our green date on the 19th. So may have to adjust it here this afternoon. Hopefully it can hold on to a little bit of gain here, and we can continue to run here with it. Now, do have cash for another position. There are no new signals on the board here this morning, but like I said, we'll go take a look at the at the watch list here. Before I do it, before I go take a look at the watch list, I just want to make a couple comments on the overall market. Right? S&P hitting a new high here, has this kind of melt up action going on, being led by banks, which is a very strong leader, led by semiconductors, a very strong leader. There's a lot of strength in this move. And some of the recent laggards like transports, they're not hitting new highs, but they're performing okay throughout this move. Healthcare, which had been a leader over the course of the month of November, is continuing to lead, continuing to have that strong leadership role. And one of the areas where we hear analysts kind of talking about into next year, healthcare being a big winner. You can see kind of the breakout action on this weekly chart. Healthcare been in this kind of year-long consolidation, has had a very nice breakout, and moving on higher. If we take a look at energy, it is lagging, but it is perking up here. Now that we have the Saudi Aramco IPO out of the way, we have oil prices, pushing up a little bit. Industrials sitting near new highs, but industrials have failed to really rally aggressively throughout this. Some of that's Boeing's fault, right? In fact, a lot of that's Boeing's fault, as Boeing has cratered back to the 2019 lows over the last couple weeks, as the congressional stuff has continued, and some of the new stuff has continued with their 737s. So that is creating a little bit of a lag here, but overall, when we look at things, they're fairly positive. Small caps, fairly positive. It was interesting to see on the day that the trade deal happened that we had more declining stocks than advancing. Now that changed right up into the close, and today, we have a lot more advancers than decliners, right? And so it's one of those where, are there some warning signs? Is there some fear that we get we get this kind of news element, and the market now has what it wants, what's left for the bulls, and now we get a big sell? Is that possible? It is. It's very possible, and I do think you have to be wary of it, right? At the same time, it's not a top pickers market, right? And we've talked about some of the key levels that need to break before, seeing the market break down. When there's a blow off the top news reversal, historically they're very obvious. We get this gap up, big downside reversal, and okay, the market mood just shifts dramatically. What do I mean? Well, if we were to see that now, right, what we would see is, okay, market's up 25 points here today. Not the biggest rally, but a decent rally. If the market were to close down 25 points today, reverse the gain and close down 25 points today, that's a pretty obvious signal that, okay, the run is over. We're getting that reversal element. And yes, do you miss the top on it? Sure. Do you get a chance to play it lower? Absolutely, because there will be a lot more lower to come, right? When we're in this type of, well, you know what, the news market got what it wants, you're often going to see some hefty reversals come in that signal the top just from a technical standpoint. So far, we have not seen them. In fact, we did not see it even Friday, right? Friday was not one of those, monster type reversal days. I'm not saying we're going to get one today. I'm just saying the way the market's set up right now, if that does happen, it's a fairly obvious, fairly clear type of sign. We do have, in fact, when it comes to this type of action, market getting what it wants, and, how does it react? Let's come in here, and I forget the exact year. I'll know it as soon as I see the chart. So let's go 2012, 12/31, 2011. We might be in 2010 area. Give me just 1 second here. Okay, September. No, okay. So we're back into 2010 here. Here we go. There we are. So here's 2010 into the year 2010, and the market was going through a lot. I had the Greek crisis, and was still worried about the banks and all that kind of stuff. And we had this, really nice rally, September, October, November, where the market was, pushing on higher, doing some nice stuff, and we had this kind of big gap up right here. Now, this gap up, this happened as there were fears about what the Fed was going to do, and this was a Fed action move. Now, the Fed came out on this day right here, and the market was down, and the market rallied, just had a small gain that day. The day after, right? The day after, there was a big upward move. And the news headlines were, Market's in the clear, market's off to the races, everything's good, grand, and wonderful for the markets. Buy, 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 right? The next day, markets went up a little bit. Can you imagine being a short seller here, right? You're just sitting there going, oh, good golly, this is terrible, right? Market busting into new highs. Yeah, it's overbought. Yeah, you had the event happen that the rally happened because of hopes for that event, and then the market got what it wants, and now it's buying, not selling. But then you can see in a period of 4 or 5 days, this kind of just cratering reversal, right? It wasn't one of those where, oh, all of a sudden the news is bad and now the market's in trouble forever and ever. It was one of those where, okay, the buyers ran out. It took a little bit of time. We had a nice little reversal day right here. And you know what? It just kind of marched on lower for 5, 6, 7 days. Created a bottom action, right? And then we got this breakaway gap here, with it. I think this is, if you're looking and you're trying to predict what's going to happen, right? It's just not necessarily the trader's game. But I do think there's some good reason to suspect this type of action. Meaning, right now, at this moment, we have a market that's pushing up into new highs, right? It's rallied into this kind of hope of a trade deal. It's gotten the trade deal. It's pushing on up. To see it rally a little bit and then, get some sort of reversal action later on this week, I would not be surprised to see. And I do think that reversal action would be very sellable if and when it happened. But so far, it's not there. Right? So far, it's not there. So far, anything, is anything, bearish, meaning, just going out and selling the market, is trying to top pick. And do you have some reason for it? Well, let's throw some indicators in there. Let's throw the money flow index in there. Let's just throw in some of the best topping indicators, or oscillators here, and let's just see what they say. All right, I'm going to add, let's come in here. Where's the MFI? Money Flow Index. And let's go with let's see. Do we want to throw anything else in here? Tricks? Nah. Let's throw the Ultimate Oscillator in here just because of the name. And here we go, right? Now, the RSI, it's above 70. People would call that overbought, right? But you take a look in November, it was overbought. Market continued to rally. So, yeah, a little bit overbought, but not super extreme. The Commodity Channel Index, it's over 200. Interesting. Let's come back to that. The Money Flow Index, nothing. Not above 80, not below 20, not overbought, not oversold, nothing there. And the Ultimate Oscillator, nothing. Right? Just nothing. Not overbought, not oversold. Right? So even an overbought, oversold argument, using some of the more common indicators, isn't the best argument. Now, using one of the more accurate indicators, the CCI, let's take a closer look and see what has been happening when the CCI has gone above 200 here. And I'll get rid of the rest of the indicators, and then we'll just go annotate and see, kind of just see what's going on. All right. So here we have over 200 right here. Okay. Back here, over 200. Right here, over 200. Right here, almost 200. Okay. So those are 200 periods. Yeah, that's 150. Right here's 150. Right here, 150. Let's just add this one, 150. Right. So here we go. These are times where the CCI's been up over 150. Right back here in February, right? What did we say? 3-day pullback. Okay, nothing too major. What did we see back here in March? 3-day pullback. Nothing too major. What did we see here in April? Not much of a pullback, just slow, steady grind higher. Then in May, we finally had a pullback off of, this higher CCI level. Here in July, pretty flat afterwards. here in September. Pretty flat afterwards, and we get this kind of 2-day sell here in November. Pretty flat afterwards, the next week and a half. And now we're sitting at one of those periods right here, right? So what do we take from it? What would I take from it? Well, just looking at what has been happening this year, I can't be uber bearish, right? I can't sit here and just say, yeah, I'm going to go out and buy anything, any put option that is out there, and and run with it. Yeah, am I willing to step in and take a few of those with some lottos? Yeah, for sure, right? For sure. But I'm not willing to put big money into saying, hey, you know what, this market's ready to fall, ready to go to hell in a handbasket. Because what do we tend to see? Well, a mild pullback or flat, has come. Now, have we had rip-roaring gains after this level? We haven't, right? We haven't. So when I look at it, when I look at everything kind of going on, I look at my stock investments. I'm very lightly exposed right now. In fact, Friday I trimmed a little bit more. So you can say, well, I'm missing out today. Do I feel that? No, right? I don't at all. In fact, I look at it and I go, well, seasonality, overbought, oversold, market getting what it wants. I can be patient for, a little bit of sell-off, to come in. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to happen the next day. But I'll be patient, wait for it to happen. And I may be waiting till January, right? Maybe waiting till February. But that's okay. From an investment standpoint, not a big deal. So when it comes to the overall market, that's kind of how I'm looking at it right here. I think the risk of some sort of downside reversal is very high, but the evidence of one, right? The reasoning behind one, or any ability to look and to say, well, one is happening right now. There's nothing. There's nothing that gives me that. There may be a couple warning signs. We've talked about a few of those. But that's it. There's no confirmation action, here to say, hey, you know what? Down we go. So with new highs coming in, with current levels being broken, where do you kind of say, oh, okay, something's happening? Well, if the lows from the prior day break, right? We talk about this on downward moves, right? When we take a look at Netflix, right? I want to be a buyer of Netflix, right? We have this dip right here. When do you buy Netflix? Well, you look at buying Netflix when the lows or when the highs from the prior day are broken, right? And we saw that happen on Friday, right? And Netflix, having a nice day here today, but that tends to tell you, okay, the downward move is over. Similar on the upward move. It's not 100%, but you want to take a look and say, well, when's the move over in Bank of America? Well, just look for the lows from the prior day to get broken. I mean, that didn't happen on Friday. It's not happening today, right? And so you just look and go, okay, I'll wait. And a lot of the upside stuff is that way. So if you're looking heavily bearish, right? And I know a few of you are. Patience. It's going to look pretty obvious. It could be a slow 2 to 3 point a day type move lower, but if there is a move lower, it's more than likely going to be pretty obvious with either some sort of big reversal or, just some sort of break of, the market, the prior day lows that come into play. And so far, neither of those are in play. And so from a bearish standpoint, need to be patient. From a bullish standpoint, look, you just use the lows from the prior day and run, right? Use the lows from the prior day and run. All right. So hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of kind of how I'm looking at the market right here. Now, as far as the challenge goes, right, how I look at it doesn't matter. But let's go take a look at a few of the stocks that are on the challenge watch list, see where they're at as far as, closeness to triggering. Here's Alcoa. This had a upside 3-7 crossover last week. Did not trigger. So nowhere close to having a 3-7 crossover. Here we have American Airlines. This one did have a 3-7 crossover on Friday, even though the stock was down. This is just one where the depths of this pullback have been a little bit too severe for the consolidation risk to be low. I thought, there was a chance that we get some sort of, upside signal, but it's just not there and probably not going to come in. Apple, we just haven't seen crossovers. This is just one that's just continued to go higher throughout the course of this challenge, but we have not been, fortunate enough to see some really nice crossovers. We did see an upside crossover back here at the beginning of the month, but no signal on that. And, had it signaled, we would have been bumped out of it there for the flatness, that came in over the, next 3 days. Amazon, this is one that has a crossover on it right now. Has really lagged the market here over the last little bit, lagged its sector. And this is one where, the earnings, okay, they're spending too much. And so investors they don't get real excited about Amazon when their spending is high, even though every time they spend, it turns into massive earnings. And for as bullish as I am on Amazon, still no signal there. Arconic, this has kind of been similar to Apple this year. But the options have been terrible there for it. Boeing has been mired in the whole congressional stuff. This isn't anywhere close to a signal there. Alibaba's been kind of like Apple, just not a lot of crossover action, just running away. And the banks, I'll kind of throw them in that Apple category. And so no real chance of even seeing a crossover come in. And a lot of stocks are in that position right now. A Caterpillar. There's no upside crossover coming in. We had that last week. The consolidation risk on a lot of the crossovers last week was very high. And it had nothing to do with the trade war, had nothing to do with any of the news elements, had everything to do with the recent consolidation phase, the way some of the indicators had been, turning. And so, again, it's not about predicting what the next direction is. It's about high probability of, being in something that can run 2 average true ranges. And we just haven't seen that. Here's Comcast. This is one that last week I thought had a chance of turning bearish. It didn't. Consolidation risk was too high. Good thing it rallied pretty aggressively. Chipotle Mexican Grill. This one has a 3-7 crossover on it here today. This could be a trigger by the end of the day. This morning, the consolidation risk is too high, but you will see how it sits this afternoon. But this has, most everything I want to see, from a visual standpoint. We'll see what the algorithm kind of says here by the close today with Chipotle. Conoco, nowhere close to a crossover. CSX had a crossover last week, no signal. This is one that was downgraded and then, rallied. Whenever you see that, a lot of times you do see further upside to it. We saw that with it. Chevron, like a lot of energy and bank names, just reversing Friday sell here today, but nowhere close to this crossover action. Delta had a crossover last week, but no signal emerged there for it. Disney, this is one that just the consolidation risk component on it super high. So I don't expect any sort of signal there with it. But you kind of get the idea. Most things either had crossovers last week and really aren't going to see much crossover action, or they're kind of blitzing away, not going to get an upside crossover anytime soon, or they're just kind of really ugly charts like a Boeing, which isn't going to cross over anytime soon. There are a few exceptions, like Chipotle Mexican Grill. Another exception is Facebook, where we could see an upside crossover. Last week, Facebook really struggled Thursday and Friday. If we start to see that next crossover, we could see a signal come in this week. Freeport, nowhere close. FedEx, nice little upgrade on it here today, but nowhere close to a signal here with it. General Electric, really lagging here, today and on Friday. This is one where you could actually see a downside signal, but right now it's kind of in that Disney position where the consolidation risk on it is very high. Here's GLD, which, throughout all the news events and market blitzing higher, it's managed to not sell off aggressively, but has not, really stacked on any major gains to where our signal was. So it would be nice to see it, kind of break this 140. I do think if you're looking at gold and you're saying, when do I get in super aggressively? take a look at the 140 mark. 140 breaks, it's off to the races there with it. The gold miners have held up pretty well, lagging a little bit today. Halliburton's had a nice short squeeze here, but, nowhere close to a signal. This is one where at the beginning of December, we saw this kind of snap down and snap back up and, got whipsawed, out of our trade, right? And this is, when we talk about trades and frustrating, trades, when it comes to the algorithm, this is the part that frustrates me are these whipsaws, right? Because, the time element, it does create this possibility where if it just whipsaws a little bit, knocks us out, and then off to the races. And we've seen that with Halliburton. It's like, ugh, come on. But, again, it's also one of those where, if I take that out, we have plenty where they break down. It's no whipsaw, and, down, down, down they go. So it's not necessarily playing with the odds to adjust it, but, when you see that, just a little irritating. To say the least. Home Depot, a lot of bad news last week. It seemed like every time I looked at the headlines, it was something negative on Home Depot. It does have an upside crossover, but the depth of this pullback here, do need to see higher highs or higher lows start to come into it. Here's Honeywell. This is one that's in an interesting spot. This is one that when you look at some of the stocks on the watch list that have the best potential of triggering bearish, Honeywell's high on that list. And it's not there yet. Doesn't have a downside 3-7 crossover here, but does have that potential. We do have some lower highs coming in, some lower lows that have started to come in. So that's one that does have that bearish potential. IBM, consolidation risk on it's just crazy high right now. So not gonna signal anytime soon. Let's see. There were a few others I wanted to take a quick look at here with you. Most of these, we've seen that looking chart before, right? In something else. Let's see, MGM. Here's Triple M, right? This is one that's been mired in this consolidation. And, it's been outperforming, some of the things like a Honeywell, which we've talked about, the Triple M versus Honeywell or Triple M versus UTX. This is one that could trigger here. We don't, it would need to pull back a little bit, give a downside crossover before the upside. But, it's just the consolidation risk on it in the short run is still very high here for it and not really changing. Netflix has an upside crossover here today. We'll see if that's a signal. You know me where I stand with Netflix. I'm super bullish on Netflix. Right? I think this is one of the best buys going into next year if you're talking about just stocks, to purchase. I think it's just one of the absolute best out there. I like it more than Disney. Yes, I said that. I like it more than Disney. But is it going to give us a challenge signal? We'll see. It's not, this morning, but, could by this afternoon. Oracle, big gap down last week. Didn't give us a trigger, but this is one where if we saw it turn around right here, we could see an upside trigger come in here, but it would have to kind of turn around right here with it. And then let's see. Starbucks, no trigger on this. We talked about it back here off the 200-day moving average. Been a nice move for it, but has not given us a signal. And then, there was one other that I remember wanting to go. Oh, here's Twilio. You know where I stand with Twilio. I'm very bullish on Twilio. This is one that's had a really rough, into the end of the year. We have seen a higher low now come in on Twilio. We have an upside 3-7 crossover going on. This is in a very interesting spot and one that's very buyable for the challenge going into the end of the day should it trigger. Even the options are okay. They're not horrid. And so we'll take a look at this as we kind of go into the close here today. It and Chipotle Mexican Grill. Very decent chances of triggering here today. And so while, yes, there's a lot of stuff that just isn't even close. We're not going to see a Visa trigger anytime soon. There are some like a Honeywell, possible downside. Chipotle, possible upside. Valero is possible upside here. And then Twilio, possible upside here today. So that's kind of where a lot of things sit, and kind of how they sit right now and just some of my thoughts on the overall market and what is going on. here with that, and kind of how I'm looking at it and what I'm kind of waiting, for with a lot of things with it. All right. Thanks for hopping on. Thanks for being with us here at Trader Minute. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and I'll be back on with you here this afternoon. Take care.